I apologize if this is kind of a depressing topic to talk about. There's my girl Rosie. But I felt like it's important because, suicide rates are higher than they've ever been, and I think it's really important to talk about this, especially like for people who have probably heard this before, who have been victims of suicide in their family. I just kind of want to talk about my own personal experience with suicide and why I don't think people who commit suicide are cowards. So basically, I had met my stepfather when I was 3 years old. He had met my mom before, but they had found each other again. But this time, they had 3 kids each. So when they got together, we became a family of 8. And my parents tried very hard to make things work, and to be honest with you, it did. I had a really great childhood. I would not have changed my childhood for the world, and I still wouldn't. Basically, my stepfather went into the workforce, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom for about 10 years, until she eventually got into the workforce herself so we could make extra money. And my stepfather was in my life way better than my own father was. Like, don't get me wrong, I do love my father, but he just wasn't there, and my father knows that. There was multiple times throughout my childhood where I wouldn't get a call, I wouldn't get anything. It would just be silent from my dad for months. I think the longest time was almost like a year or two. I went without even hearing from him. Whereas my stepfather stood up and took care of us. He went and got a job, worked at a factory job nonetheless, which is he hated his job, but it made good money for us, and so that's why he stayed. We had a great childhood, We'd go riding bikes around the neighborhood with Charlie and my mom. We would have family dinners every night, sit down, no phones, no TV. We'd just sit there, talk to each other. Every night, good night hugs and kisses. I had a really great childhood, and I wouldn't have had that without Charlie. So Charlie was a very big backbone for our family. So growing up, it got harder, money got tighter. He later on was diagnosed with diabetes, and he was having a lot of stomach pain. He had a really bad liver, and he had a heart condition. And he also had depression, and he hid it very well. He had only ever told my mom one time, a long time ago, where he had thought about ending his life, and he hadn't made any mention about it since that one time when they were younger. So my mom had no idea that he was suffering as bad as he was. And so unfortunately, December 3rd, 2019, he unfortunately took his own life with a gun. He had shot himself. It was devastating to my family. He really was our backbone. And without him, we all just kind of crumbled. But in his mind at the time, he thought he was helping us. And unfortunately, I've had too many people tell me to my face that he was a coward. They tell me the man that raised me, the man that worked at a job that he hated for years, and the love he showed all of us, they're trying to convince me that he's a coward. I thought about, the love I watched him give to my mom, and even in his suicide video, because he made a video, he talked about how much he loved us, and it hurts because he had all that love for us and our family, but he couldn't give just a little bit of that to himself. And I remember I looked at the man who had told me that my stepfather was a coward. And I sat there and I looked at this hurt soul who would say like such callous things to me. And I thought about Charlie's heart and this guy telling me my stepfather was a coward. And I thought about that man's heart. And even though what Charlie did was wrong, I don't think suicide is ever the answer. Even though what he did was wrong, it didn't make him a coward. He loved us so much. He thought he was doing the right thing, even though it wasn't. He was broken. He was not a coward. He was just broken. He was hurting and he just didn't want to hurt others. So which made me think back to like how much he didn't want to hurt us. And I thought about that man just not even thinking twice about what he was saying and how it could hurt me and my family. And I thought about that man's heart. The way I see it is only God knows your heart, your intentions. I think Jesus died for those living in sin. And I believe that he died for those who were less fortunate, like Charlie. I know God saw Charlie's heart, and I believe Charlie was strong but hurting. To anyone who is a victim of suicide, don't let callous people tell you who your loved one was. They never knew them, but God did and does. Love will always triumph over evil. So I love Charlie. I forgive him. And the man that told me he was a coward, I also forgive him as well. Because I believe that man was hurting too. One song that I listen back to a lot of times when I'm thinking about stuff like this. Let me read. And I'd hear this song growing up, and I love these lyrics. I think they mean a lot. It says, lessons in life show us all in time. Too soon, I've gotta let you know why. If you fall, get right back up. The good Lord calls everybody home. To anyone that is struggling with the idea of suicide, it is not the answer. As someone who has lost someone to suicide, if I could just go back and just hug him and tell him I loved him, you know, maybe that would have made a difference. But there are people who love you and you don't realize it. There's a God that loves you and created you with a purpose, and we all have that purpose. We all deserve to live. We all deserve to be happy and experience life. Again, I'm sorry if this is kind of a depressing topic, but his anniversary is coming up of when he died, and I felt like it was important to get this message out there that suicide is not right, but it doesn't make someone a coward. There's a big difference, I think. And to anyone who has lost someone to suicide, you understand how hard it is. It's very hard, and I understand it. You're strong. You know, get back up, because the Lord's gonna bring you home too. You know, so don't let people tell you who your loved one was. They didn't know him. And it's very callous and hurtful to say those things without even knowing who that person was. So I would never think twice, if someone came up to me and, talked about how their loved one died from cancer or died from drug overdose. I would never say, oh, what a coward, what a loser. That should never, ever come out of someone's mouth, ever, especially about someone who died. Just let them be in peace with God now. You didn't even know who they were. So it's like, But I will stop rambling. Thank you for watching this video. Again, I am very sorry if it's depressing. Just want to get this message out there. Thanks.